So recently we had the shooting in Kansas. A couple of Jewish community centers were shot up, residents in a community center, by Frazier Glenn Miller. He shouted Heil Hitler as the cops arrested him. He shot 3 people, and of course, since all these racists, anti-Semites, bigots are idiots, he wound up shooting 3 non-Jews. He shot 3 Christians in the name of Christianity. Okay. There's no end to their stupidity. So now, as he's doing that, Peter Bergen and David Sturman realize, wait a minute now, it looks like there's actually been a lot of these right-wing terrorist attacks here in the U.S. since 2001. And they wrote an article about it in CNN. It's actually one of the best articles I've seen on CNN in a long, long time. I want to give them credit for it. And here's what they point out. Do you know that since 9/11, there have been 34 people in the U.S. killed by right-wing extremists and 21 people killed by al-Qaeda-related terrorists. So 34 to 21. Oh, by the way, left-wing extremists, they exist. They have done violent attacks against property, etc. Number of people killed, 0. Okay? So now, in fact, they talk about them a little bit as well. They say, moreover, since 9/11, none of the more than 200 individuals indicted or convicted in the United States of some act of jihadist terrorism have acquired or used chemical or biological weapons or their precursor materials, while 13 individuals motivated by right-wing extremist ideology, 1 individual motivated by left-wing extremist ideology, and 2 with idiosyncratic beliefs used or acquired such weapons or their precursors. So, in other words, there's been more attacks by right-wing extremists, more people killed, and they use biological and chemical weapons to do so. Now, do you hear about all the right-wing extremism in the country and how it is something that we should conduct a war against, and we have to spend all of our time and energy fighting this right-wing terrorism? You hear that over and over and over again on TV? Not exactly, right? In fact, they explain. Now let's do the thought experiment in which instead of shouting Heil Hitler after he was arrested, the suspect had shouted Allahu Akbar only 2 days before the first anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombings. This simple switch of words would surely have greatly increased the extent and type of coverage the incident received. Now, does anyone believe that that's not the case? If it turned out that it was a Muslim terrorist that went and tried to shoot up 2 different Jewish centers in Ohio and yelled Allahu Akbar while he was doing it, that we wouldn't be covering it on cable news nonstop 24 hours a day? And this story came and it went. It's not that they didn't cover it, but it got a tiny bit of coverage because in their mind, well, these things are not connected. The right-wing terrorism is never connected, and they hardly ever even call it terrorism. But whenever a Muslim does an extreme act, a violent act, it's all connected. It's all al-Qaeda affiliates, etc. Oh, watch out, the Muslims are coming, Muslims are coming. You know who's coming? A right-wing lunatic near you. Unfortunately, since 9/11, they have been attacking us more. Now, obviously, 9/11 was huge. We know that, and the writers of the article, of course, acknowledge that. And we started 2 wars over that. Nearly 3,000 people were killed, and that was a giant act. And then we've had more actions like the underwear bomber, etc., and the guy who tried to do a bombing in Times Square. We know that, right? And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't fight against Islamic extremism. Of course you should. But you should also pay some attention to right-wing extremism. They say here in a later part of the article, despite the history of deadly violence by individuals motivated by political ideologies other than al-Qaeda, it is jihadist violence that continues to dominate the news and the attention of policymakers. And in fact, the Department of Homeland Security in 2009 had put out a report saying, watch out for right-wing extremists. They were trying to warn us. And what happened? A huge political storm. Right-wing talk radio and Fox News went nuts. How dare they say this? This is a political attack by the Obama administration, although the report was written during the Bush administration. And they buried the report and then fired moved nearly everyone that was working to stop right-wing extremism. There's 25 people in that bureau working on Islamic extremism at the Department of Homeland Security, only 1 on right-wing extremism. But in fact, as you just saw here, there's more right-wing extremists. It's a bigger threat to you at this point. In fact, the guy who wrote the report, Daryl Johnson, who, by the way, is a conservative, says, since our report was leaked, Department of Homeland Security has not released a single report of its own on this topic, not anything dealing with non-Islamic domestic extremism, whether it's anti-abortion extremists, white supremacists, sovereign citizens, eco-terrorists, the whole gamut. We stopped paying attention, but they did not stop attacking us. Both problems are real, and they both need to be addressed.